In this video, I am going to discuss the I2C real-time clock operation. I'm actually going to show you two different real-time clocks just to show the differences, and then I'm going to make use of one of them in further videos to explain the programming and the reading, etc., of data into the real-time clock and reading data from the real-time clock. So this is the first video, and there will be more to follow then. So if I can go to the two different real-time clocks that I'm talking about. The one is this DS1307, and the other one is it's called a DS3231. This is the other one, but you'll see in a lot of cases the operation of these two will be exactly the same. If I can first of all go to the 1307, that's the one I will be further using in my explanations and making use of, I'm going to make use of the Atmega 328P to discuss how it's programmed and so forth. So as you can see here, this specific real-time clock has got a crystal. As you can see there, it's making use of I2C, the I2C clock line and the data line. There's also as you can see here, a backup battery. So yes, this specific device, you will program the date and the time and the year, etc., month, day, into this device, and it will be kept there. But the problem is that the data is actually still RAM data that you program in here, and this is why you've got a battery sitting there. So if there's a power failure or a switch off of a specific device, this battery will keep the data and also ensure that the data updates the whole time. So once you've programmed this I2C real-time clock, you can read the data and it will automatically update inside the device. And this is what the strong feature is of a real-time clock. It can be off for a month or two, and afterwards when you switch it on, it's still got the correct date and time available. So if I can go, I just want to point out a few things here. There's a lot of description in here, of course, but you can read through this whole thing yourself. I'm going to come back to these timekeeping registers just now. Just before we get there, I'm also going to just quickly discuss the square wave enable. But maybe the first thing I want to talk about is how to write data to this specific I2C real-time clock, and also how to read data from this specific clock, which is, of course, the real-time clock will be seen as the slave, whereas your microcontroller will be a master. And this explanation is quite good if you look at the color codes that it's given here. So if I want to write data to a specific real-time clock, we'll start always with a start condition, I2C start condition. And as you can see here, this is the address. So the address is 1101, which is in hex a D and 3 zeros. But if you want to write, that 0 also becomes part of that first 8 bits. Which means if you place a value of D0 into this first slave address, it is actually going to activate this specific device, the 1307, and the 0 will indicate that we're in the process to writing data to it. And of course, as you can see here, this A means there's an acknowledge, but this is an acknowledge from the slave, and the master will write some data, the slave will acknowledge. Maybe some more data, the slave will acknowledge. Maybe some more data, the slave will acknowledge, until it will actually it will carry on until enough data was written to the device, and then the master will stop this with a P, which is a stop condition, of course, an I2C stop condition. So if I want to read data from it, there will again be a start condition from the master, and as you can see, there's again the D, but then 0, 0, 0, 1, that becomes a 1 in other words. So if I write something like D1, it means The master writes D1, it wants to read data from the slave device. As you can see here, this is again the acknowledge is from the slave, and then the slave will start to transmit data. And whereas here, the acknowledge is now coming from the master. So the data will still be sent, the master will acknowledge, data from the slave, master will acknowledge, and at some point, when the slave sends data and the master decides that's enough, it will actually create a not acknowledge, stopping the data from the slave, the real-time clock. And the master will, of course, then generate the P, which is a stop condition. It's not a P, it's actually a stop condition. So this is the format how to write data to the I2C real-time clock, and also how to read data from the specific device. So first of all, we will in the program also, when I come to the program, you will write data into the specific device into different positions. So if I'm going to write the day and the month and the year, that will be written, the seconds, the minutes, the hours will be written into the specific device. And you'll see then that we'll make use of this format. And thereafter, it's now once it's programmed in, we will actually start reading by making use of the read data transmit mode. And we can read the data back and display the data back continuously, because automatically the real-time clock will then run and keep date and time, because that is what it was intended for. If you look at, let's go back now to maybe, well, let's look at this one. An important one is maybe if you want to generate, a square wave on a specific pin. We saw, let me go and show that to you on the Proteus device. There's an S out pin. This is your S out pin on the specific 1307 real-time clock. So if you want to have, as we can see here, I've generated a square wave here. If you want that, you will need to go to the address number hex 07, and you'll have to make this specific pin a 1. And if you make this, sorry, bit, it's not a pin, it's actually a bit number 4 inside this register. You make it a 1, you will generate the frequency, and the frequency can be determined by the values of bit 0 and bit 1 in the same address. If you can look at, here it is, RS0, RS1, depending on what you've got here. You can generate a 1 Hertz or a 4 kilohertz or an 8 kilohertz or a 32 kilohertz. Of course, there's certain fractions also which you can look at. So it is possible to generate an output value or a square wave output on one of those pins if you really want to. I did it in my case, but you don't have to do it. It's just if you've got a purpose for that. You can maybe flash an LED or something like that if you really want to make use of that. What's important to us, especially is here, it's the timekeeping registers. Now these timekeeping registers, address 00 hex is where we will place the seconds, and we have to place, as you can see here, the range is from 00 to 59. The seconds, let's say that the seconds is 45 seconds. We'll place 4 into bit 4, 5, and 6, which is actually bit 6 is going to be a 1, 0, 0. That's the 4, and I think I said 46, and 6 will be placed here. So there's actually going to be what I call this a high seconds, and there's a low seconds. And the same with there's a high minutes and there's a low minutes. Again, the minutes ran from 00 to 59 also. And you have to place these, the upper or the high seconds in sort of a BCD format, which is the same as a hex format in this specific case. It's not normally the case, but if you put a value here of, as I've said, 46, you will put a 4 in here and a 6 in here, which will then actually store the specific seconds. In the minutes, same story. You will store the minutes high here in bit 4, 5, and 6, and the minutes low in bits 0 to 3. Then we can actually decide if I want this thing to be in a 24-hour format, So we can have it from 0 to 23, or in a 12-hour format, and then including an AM and PM. In my specific example, I'm just going to make use of a 0 to 23 hours. So in our case, in my specific case, I will put the maximum that we can get to is 23. 20 is 2. In other words, 2 year is 1 0. So I'll place a 1 year in the 10 hour and a 2. If I want to place a 23, in other words, the 2 will be 1 year in bit number 5 and a 0 in bit number 4. 1 0 is 2, and 3 will be placed in as bit 1 1. Bit 0 and bit 1 will be 1 and 1, and bit 2 and bit 3 will be zeros. So it is possible, as I've said, if you put a 1 in here, you put a 1 in bit number 6, you're going to switch over to 12-hour format. But for my purposes, I'm just going to stick to the 24-hour format. We don't really use this day, but it is possible if you've got a use for that, day 0 to day 7. I'm definitely going to make use of address number 4. You just keep in mind address 0 keeps the seconds. 0, 0, address 0, 1 keeps the minutes. Sorry, that keeps the minutes. And address 0, 2 will keep the hours. So I'm going to program in the seconds, the minutes, and the hours. And I'm not going to make use of this one. I've got no use at this stage for day to actually put a day in there. But nothing prevents you from also loading that if you really want to. And then on address number 4, inside this device, there's the date, which is anything from the 1st to the 31st of a month, of course. No? So it's the day number 0, 1 to 31. And again, but 4 and 5 will actually be containing the upper day value, and this one here will actually contain the lower day value. If we look at the months, it's from 0, 1 to 12, which means if it's the upper will be a maximum of a 1. That's why there's only one specific position for month. Even if it's month 12, this is going to be a 1. And if it's month, let's say 8, that's going to be a 0. And the 8 will be placed in here. So again, this is the lower part of the month, and this is the upper part of the month. And then, of course, this when this thing starts up, it's actually programmed with the year 2000. That's when it starts up with. So all we have to do at this specific moment, we are sitting in, I'm doing this in 2025. So as it says here, it's going to be 00 to 99. So I will place in this year address a value of 25. So I'll place 2 year, which is 1 0. Bit 5 will be a 1, and bit 4 will be a 0. And 5 will be placed in the lower area, the lower nibble, which means it's going to be 1 0 1, which will be placed in here. And as I've said, if you really want to generate the square wave, you can still do that. It's not necessary, but if you've got a purpose, you can do that. So this is basically the basic information I want to give for the 1307. So I'm just going to quickly now move over to the 3231, because I also make use of that one. Again, there's a backup battery, as you can see here. It is still I2C. Let's go further down. If you really want to enable a square wave in this specific instance, let me just get there. Yeah. So if you really, in this specific case, if you want to enable a square wave, you will place in address number 0E hex. You will take this bit and you will make that bit a 0. If I just look on the next page, or it's somewhere it is set, yeah, this bit controls the square wave signal. When the INTCN interrupt bit is set to a logic 0, a square wave output, there is a square wave output on this specific pin. So yes, if you really want to have a square wave, you can also activate the square wave. It's also, if you look at this thing, it's also basically, it says there's also an interrupt. And as you can see, this thing has got a few more addresses compared to the 1307. Just look at the seconds. It's exactly at address 00. The seconds can be stored here. At 01, the minutes is stored, same address. At 02, the hours will be stored at the same address. At 3, as I've said, I'm not going to make use of day, but it's the same story. 4, we used in the other one, in the 1307. So yeah, it's exactly the same position. 5 is actually exactly the same position as the previous one. And 6 is the year position, which is exactly the same as the previous one. And the only difference is here, you've actually got a 1M1, which is an A2, which means you can actually store values here where you want interrupts to occur. I'm not going to make use of this, but you can store values here, and as soon as this, what you've programmed in position, for instance, the seconds, minutes, and hour, what you've programmed in there can actually be used in as soon as the real time, which we have programmed in here now. As soon as this comparison value here is the same as what we see in this area that we've programmed, then you can activate interrupts. On that same square wave pin, you can also activate interrupts. But you can look at this further in more detail. As I've said, in my case, I'm just interested in actually the total real time, which is I'm just going to make use of up to address number 6, and not including address number 3. So this is sort of the background. Maybe I need to just add this a small section here. And if you look at here it is on the right hand side. If you look at what we see here, we have got, as before, there's a certain write mode and there's a certain read mode, of course. No? The slave is transmitting, which is a read mode. But if you look at this, if you look at this one here, that's a D0. So it's exactly the same as the 1307. And there's a D1, which is also exactly the same as in the 1307. So the address of this 1307 and the address of the 1307 and the address of the DS3231 is exactly the same. So real-time clocks has got basically a D in the beginning of the hex value, the slave address, for both cases. But as I've said, what I've done in my case, I'm going to make use of the 1307, and I'm going to work from there onwards. So let me stop with this video, and then in the next video I'm going to explain how data is then programmed into the specific device and how data can be read from the specific device. So I'm going to stop here and continue in video number 2.